I call to order the Newman City Council regular meeting, May 24th, 2022. City Council chambers. Let's see here. I'm sorry. Let's go and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain stand for the invocation. Ready? Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight I come with a heavy heart. And when I say heavy, I mean heavy. I've been holding back tears all day. When I think about babies being gunned down, didn't have a chance to even know what life is about. I pray God Almighty that you will look down and have mercy on our souls. As I come tonight with my fellow council members, the mayor and servants, I just ask you to please, in your hearts, lift those parents and teachers up in a prayer. And tonight, let us all be blessed. Amen.
Amen.
Good job.
Roll call.
Councilmember McDonald.
Here.
Paul.
Here.
Pimentel.
Here.
Mayor Graham.
Here. All right, any declarations of interest tonight? No, not seeing any. Item 6, ceremonial matters are none tonight. Item number 7, items from the public, non-agenda items. Go and, please state your name and address for the...
Hi, I'm Veronica Walker. I'm the new Newman Library Supervisor.
Welcome.
So I just want to come and say, hey, we're open, we're still here. I want to let the community know we survived, and want to let the community know about what's happening for the summer. We have Summer Reading Challenge for all ages with great prizes. So it's so easy to sign up. You can sign up on our website and just encouraging reading throughout the summer. And also, starting June, story time is back, and I know the community really loves story time. So I want to let the community know that story time's back. It's going to be Wednesdays at 11, first come, first served basis. Also, the Friends of the Newman Library is going to have a big book sale. So wanted to let the community know that we're having a book sale. I know we've been asked a lot about that. It's going to be in June as well. All that information is available on the website, on our calendar, at Stanislaus Library website. And just wanted to let them know that we're here. So wanted you guys to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you and welcome. Anybody else tonight? No? All right. Item number 8, consent calendar, waive all readings of ordinance and resolution except by title. B, approval of warrants. C, approval of minutes of the April 26, 2022 meeting. D, adopt resolution 2022 next number, a resolution requesting that the Board of Supervisor of Stanislaus County consolidate the November 8, 2022 City of Newman municipal election with the gubernatorial general election to be held on the same date. E, adopt resolution 2022 next number, resolution approving the City of Newman's conflict of interest code as written and without amendments.
I move that we accept the consent calendar.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
My computer wasn't ready. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 9A, public hearings. A second reading and adoption of ordinance 2022, next number, an ordinance amending chapter 8.101 garbage and rubbish of Title 8 Health and Sanitation of the Newman Municipal Code to regulate the disposal of recyclable and organic materials and authorize staff to publish a summary of said ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go ahead and take this one for now. Excuse me. SB 1383 was a bill that was originally passed in September of 2016. And while well-intentioned, I think there's still a few flaws with it, but we're not going to go into the details on that. What we have before you tonight is there's an ordinance in front of you for your consideration. It was originally brought to you on March 22nd. We talked to you about it. It passed 3-2 and was introduced at our last meeting on April 26th. Council could not come to a consensus on the item, had some real issues with this particular statute that's been passed by the state. And so you tabled it and continued the public hearing to this date forward. So today we're going to go ahead and reopen that public hearing and hear some commentary from the public possibly. And our legal counsel is going to talk to you a little bit about some of the questions that you had, the potential for a lawsuit. Is there any lawsuits that have been filed to date or any rumblings of a lawsuit thereafter? And then the last thing was she's going to talk to you a little bit about what your options are moving forward in terms of how to proceed, either with an affirmative vote or a negative vote, and if you decide not to pass this ordinance at this time, what we could potentially face as a community, as a city. So I'm going to turn it over to Nubia at this time.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Yes, as Michael mentioned, SB 1383 has been a bill with a large amount of controversy really at the state level. And the first issue that I know that the council was inquiring about was there potential for a lawsuit to challenge the frankly onerous requirements that are imposed as part of the bill. At this time, there don't appear to be any actual filed lawsuits at the state level against the state by any local jurisdiction. That doesn't mean that there won't be. That there's always a possibility for that, especially when you consider just another unfunded mandate against local jurisdictions and really hampering the ability to really dictate what happens at the local level. So it's a possibility. At this time, there are no such lawsuits. But the bill does, in and of itself, really take over a very large area of regulatory compliance requirements because it impacts local jurisdictions and haulers and franchisees with their own set of rules and regulations. And so specifically as it relates to the city of Newman, the bill requires that every municipality in the state adopt an ordinance to set those protocols and enforcement mechanisms for the disposal of organic waste pursuant to the bill. And that's what we've presented to council for its consideration. Now, from a practical standpoint, the state agency that oversees this is CalRecycle, and CalRecycle, just like most other agencies that are impacted by having to enforce, really comes down to do they have the manpower to actually go after municipalities and haulers and franchisees and individuals who are not following the regulations. So that's always a factor, I think, for the council to consider. Ultimately, the bill does require the city to adopt an ordinance. If the council chooses, the options really are for the council to adopt it at this time as presented. The council could alternatively potentially table this for further discussion later on. Again, as I mentioned, CalRecycle is really the entity that is responsible for enforcement. So if the city were to table this, say, for a little bit of time to figure out maybe some of the ins and outs of the language itself, figuring out maybe working with the city's franchisee on these issues before actually adopting the ordinance, then it would really be more of a sit and wait situation to determine whether or not the CalRecycle will potentially start issuing violations. And that's really when I think the imperative need for some action will take place. However, if that happens, the regulations are pretty clear. CalRecycle has to give the city a notice of violation with a set amount of time to rectify the problem and actually pass the ordinance. So there would be a little bit of time to work through some of those details, but that is a possibility. There are fines associated with not passing with the violation based off of the notice of violation, but those don't kick in until after 90 days that the notice has actually been served on the city. So again, it wouldn't be automatic, it wouldn't be immediate, it would be more of a situation we just have to wait and see if CalRecycle is inclined to send a notice of violation to the city. And so in speaking with the city manager, in terms of a scheduling of the final adoption of this ordinance, realistically, we could table this, bring it back, renotice it. It would take about 60 days to get it in place, so we'd have enough time if the council so wishes to maybe postpone a decision on this for now.
Okay. Well, with that, I'll open up to the public. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this tonight? Welcome.
Hello. Carrie Thompson, 737 Black Mountain Lane, and here in Newman. I didn't attend the last meeting, and I regret not having made it. So I have some questions about this ordinance. From what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the options were to either have an additional container, or we would have to pay for the sorting of the waste. Is that correct? That we have the option, instead of having an additional container, to pay to have the collector. I know there's all sorts of definitions. They got the hauler and the franchiser. Anyway, the garbage guys, can they sort it for us and we get out from this additional container that way? Because the way I'm looking at things, there's so many ways for people to be exempt that the city's trying to accommodate. It really puts an unfair balance of burden upon those that have enough room for a can and don't have these other challenges. So my main concern or question was about the option to pay for sorting as opposed to a container.
I believe.
So to address Ms. Thompson's comment, there are two options. You are correct. The hauler could sort it, or you could provide a third can. Our situation, we're in a franchise agreement, and the company we're in with does not sort it. Theirs is, they have a third can option. They're not presenting a sort option for us.
So we're beholden to their structure as opposed to our needs.
Well, the question then become, if we wanted to go with sorting, then we would find a way out of our franchisee agreement with them, and then we would have to bring a new hauler in.
Okay. So not getting too much into the weeds about the city's obligation or challenges therein, speaking as a member of the public, and my personal experience with the recycling as it is currently in California, many of us do our due diligence to sort and abide and comply with current recycling requirements. However, there are some people, either through lack of education or lack of motivation, don't follow those things. And so you see like the recycle can full of trash as opposed to recyclables, or vice versa in the cans and that. And so it just seems to me to be logical that at some point somebody is sorting this stuff, because just would make sense if you're forcing us to separate it in the first place. So I feel like our end result would be better if we were paying somebody else to go through all of it. And that way, everybody is sharing the cost across the board for compliance on the state level. So that's pretty much where I'm coming from. I'd really like to see something more equitable as opposed to large sections of our community that aren't required to comply. Not that unless you can find a way that we can all be exempt, and then I'd like to do that. So those are my concerns and my thoughts and my question to you, because I personally would be considered to have enough room, but I can't get past my air conditioner and I don't have the room between my air conditioner and the fence to put a third can and still open the gate. I know that the villas, they can't even get their current cans through their gates because the gate distance, the width is too small. Apartments here in town won't have to do that. They still use, a single dumpster. So again, thinking that for end product, the sorting by a third party would be ideal, but those are my thoughts. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any? Good evening.
Good evening, all. My name is Debbie Allen. I live at 1520 S Street here in Newman. And unfortunately, I was out of the state when you had your first meetings, or I wouldn't be here. But I just wanted to tell you where we are currently. I only get a 60-gallon can, but I only have 2 bags of trash. And not everybody's my household, which is me and a senior. So I do realize I see other people's trash in the alley, so I do know that they're like overrunning everything. But somehow to have a third can doesn't make any sense, because if I weren't weeding my yard right now, I'd just have 2 little bags to pick up tomorrow morning. So it seems to me that it would be better if we had another option. And the recycle can's fine. I'm like her. I do have the room, but I don't need all that. Just because and I don't actually need a 90-gallon recycle can either. But it's anyway, it's just a thought. Also, the addition of the price to the city bill is could be a issue for seniors on a really limited income. And there's plenty of them here in town. They either inherited their homes or they just don't have, all they got is Social Security. You haven't lived until you have to live on Social Security by yourself. You're lucky if you're by yourself. So it's just something to consider, because right now that everything, and this is out of you guys' control, all the inflation and stuff. It's just really another burden to pay for. Yep. But I understand it's a bill, so if you have to comply, I'd hope that we could come up with another option besides the third can. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Anybody else tonight? All right. Well, with that, I'll bring it back to the council for any comments or questions.
Yeah, I'm glad to see, although it's just a few people in the audience, I'm glad just to hear the voices of people. And I'm pretty sure that if we had this house packed, we would hear the same sentiment. We hear the same thing in reference to seniors that are on a fixed income, that just not be able to afford not even another penny in terms of paying out. So I'm agreeing with these people. I will not vote for something like that. I don't care if it's Gavin Newsom and the gangs up there in Sacramento. These guys basically, all they know is to pass a bill and pass it on to the small cities. And as far as I'm concerned, that should be an option for the city to take up, and not these guys up in Sacramento. I would vote no on that.
Yep. Anything?
Similar to my comments last time, I'm not a fan of unfunded mandates, especially when it impacts our citizens, not just senior citizens, but with inflation right now, we have a lot of people struggling So I am also inclined not to approve it this time.
If it ain't broke, why fix it? I mean, $11, you know who's getting that is the state. And we're in California here, guys, and we're overtaxed already, so I'd vote no on it too.
Yeah, I appreciate you ladies speaking today, and like Councilman McDonald said, I think a lot of people in the community feel the same way about this, and a lot of them don't even realize it's going on, that this bill just got passed, and it gets sent down and expected to be implemented, and it just costs people more and more money and more and more money, and there's a lot of those bills that get pushed out to us that affect us, and, you know, this is one that we can drag our feet on at least for a while till they force us to do it. And hopefully there will be enough people that maybe, because there's a couple other unfunded bills that are coming up or that are out there, maybe we can try to get some control back, and hopefully somebody takes litigation up against us at some point. So with that. Yeah.
Excuse me, Mayor. We have counsel here. No disrespect, but with our counsel, I think that they should do due diligence in terms of doing some research and find the right language or the right avenue to where we can go around in terms of, even if it costs us to go into court, to sue these people, to say this ordinance doesn't fit small towns. Leave it up in Sacramento, leave it in San Francisco. But these small towns like Newman cannot afford it when we have senior citizens that own fixed incomes.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't lobby for it, but our attorneys can. Our counsel can look into this and say, this is not happening in Newman. And that's where we need our attorneys.
So with that, we can bring it back for one of two things. We can either vote on it to pass it. I'd recommend not voting no on it. That makes it harder to bring it back. We can put it up for a vote, or we can table it for a later date, but we need a motion on either of those options.
I say we table it again.
Okay. Do we need to put a specific date on it, or just table it?
No, I think the motion would be sufficient to just say that it's a motion to table the item.
Okay.
So we have a motion to table the item. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, go and vote. Councilman Ball?
Well, I apologize.
And we voting to table this?
Yes. Motion carries 4-0. Item is tabled. Thank you again for speaking tonight. Item number 10, regular business. A, approve fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget as presented in the preliminary budget document. Item 1, adopt resolution 2022, next number, resolution establishing fiscal year 2022-2023 gain appropriations limit. And item number 2, adopt resolution 2022 number, next to number, a resolution adopting the budget for fiscal year 2022 and 2023. Lou?
Evening, Mayor. Evening. Members of the council. Now for the exciting stuff, huh? So the two resolutions we have before us, we'll take them one at a time. The first one is our GAN calculation. This is the calculation that's been carried forward since 1979. Every year it gets adjusted by the Consumer Price Index and by our population to arrive at a number that is the limit by which we can't appropriate taxes beyond. So in this particular case, it's a little bit over $17 million, and the amount that we're going to be appropriating this year is just under 7. So if you have any questions about that resolution, I'll be happy to answer them, but otherwise we just need a vote.
Any questions on item 1? No. Go. Bring it back to council for action.
I'll go ahead and move to adopt resolution number 2022, a resolution establishing fiscal year 2022-2023 GAAN appropriations limit.
And I'll second that.
We have first and second. Go ahead and vote. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 2.
So the budget, just real briefly, we're not going to spend 45 minutes going through every detail on this. We all have much more important things to do. But in brief, our budget is split into 4 different categories of funds. The first is our general fund, which has revenues that come from property taxes, sales taxes, things that allow us the most flexibility on spending. The second group of funds are called our special revenue funds. Those are revenues that we receive that have strict regulations on how we can use that money. For example, gas tax funds that come in, we can only use them on streets and roads. So we've got those all lumped together and they're special revenues. The next section is our enterprise funds, which are water and sewer. Those are funds that are required to be self-sufficient. They should bring in enough revenues through billing practices to cover the expenditures and operations of those funds. And then the last group is our capital funds, which are monies that come in from developers, specifically for doing major improvements, expansion of services within the city. First of all, let's take a look at page 5 of the budget. On these next 3 pages are each of our funds in a summary form. The very first column there, general fund, which is fund number 10. If you notice at the top section there, it has our revenues. It's the same across all the funds. Right beneath that are our expenditures for that particular fund. And then you'll find a subtotal, and beneath that are the transfers in and outs. This is money that's moved between funds. For example, sometimes we have state grants that require a matching fund from a different fund, and so we'll have to transfer money into there to match those for that program. So real quickly, if we'll look at the first column there, you'll see that we've got transfers coming in and out, and then beneath that we have the estimated net current year activity of being a negative $649,000. This has been typical for our general fund for the last several years. We usually budget more expenditures than we typically actually spend, and we're usually very conservative on our revenue estimates. As a matter of fact, over the last 5 years, we've not had a deficit year. We've always had a surplus at the end of the year. I estimate we'll probably end up the same on this one. If you notice our general fund balance, which is the next to the last line where it shows 4.1 million, that's where we're estimated to end up at the end of this current fiscal year. This is actually a really good number. This is the first year we've been over $4 million as a fund balance. Some might say, well, maybe your city is not spending enough of its money, or maybe it's taxing too much. But in our particular case, small cities need to have a good reserve in case significant emergencies come up. The last, I think, major ones we had was back in the 90s when we had floods, and we spent over $1 million on repairs. If we have that kind of a reserve here in our city, it makes it very good for us to be able to recover quickly without having to go through loan processes and trying to find funding. So you notice our general fund, we're estimated to end up about $3.5 million, which is a healthy reserve. Another thing I want to point out is if you look over to the right, you see state grants fund 17 and federal grants 18. You'll notice that we have a lot of revenues and expenditures. Our staff here has been able to secure a lot of grants, which is fantastic. It helps us grow without having to put a burden on our general fund. And if you look at the dollar amounts on there, they're quite significant. Another thing we should point out, our Measure L. Remember a few years ago, we did a very big project, and we were in deficit, and now we've got money starting to get set aside. We're getting ready to do our next big round. We'll go knock out a whole bunch more streets and get those paid for, and then, again, we'll let the fund rest and recover. Okay, so on page number 6, we'll skip over to the next to last column, the sewer fund there. The reason why I point this one out is, again, this is one of our enterprise funds. It's important that we bring in sufficient revenues to cover our expenditures. And if you look down at the third from the bottom line there, it shows 1.1 million in a gain to our fund. So it's operating properly. It's got enough money coming in. The fund to the right of that, which is the sewer capital, you notice it's projecting a negative. We are doing some projects, spending some of the money from there, and because we don't have any new homes coming in quite yet, we're anticipating not that much revenues coming in. However, that fund does have a really healthy reserve of 12 million. So if we're using up a little bit of that, that's quite all right. Plus, we've got some new houses coming in over the next few years, which will, again, re-energize that fund. On page 7, next page, first column, we have our water enterprise fund. Also, this one, if you look at the third from the bottom line there, it shows the net income on that fund as well. This also incorporates, assuming that we're going to be starting to make payments on our well number 10. So even after those large payments, we're still going to have a positive fund balance. And then again, the same thing with the water capital, which is the next column next to it. Once again, we start building homes, money comes in to cover that, and we should be doing fine. And if we turn over to page 10, real briefly, this is our general fund revenues that are broken out into each line item. A few things, our property tax values have been increasing, so we're collecting more revenues there. Our sales taxes are increasing, we're collecting more revenues there. And as this economy continues to grow, we're just going to keep doing better. You'll notice our overall, down at the bottom there, we're looking at a little over 6 million, which is an increase over the prior years. So that's trending in the right direction. And then on page 14, this is a breakdown of each of our departments' budgeted expenditures for the year. They're broken out by salaries, maintenance and operations, capital outlay, and debt service, and then transfers. So then beyond those, each of the rest of the budget is broken out to each of the sections. On the very last page of the budget is a list of the capital assets that we're purchasing throughout the year. The left-hand side, you'll notice we have a lot of computer systems, video systems going in, servers. Those get maintained about every 3 to 5 years. They get rotated out. We've got security features that are going in and a few vehicles. All in all, I'd just like to say, I think our budget, we're going to do just fine this year, just like we've done in all the other ones. Even if we do end up being a little bit negative at the end of the year, we have sufficient reserves to borrow from, which is probably a good thing. You don't want to keep expanding that and never spending money. So we have to keep those services consistent for our residents. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, any questions for Lou?
I would just like to say, and I've said this before, I really be able to feel and sleep comfortable with Lou in that position. I know if you were born maybe about 50 years ago, the mafia people would have looked you up and grabbed you and held on to you. You're a great service guy, in terms of what you're doing, and I really appreciate your professionalism.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay. Great job, Lou. I'll go and open up to the public for any comments or questions. Not seeing none, not seeing any. I'll bring it back to the council for action.
I move to approve fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget as presented in the preliminary budget document.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
No, second.
Vote. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
Good job, as always.
Thanks, Lou. Did you say Louing it? I think you said he's Louing it. I think that's a new term. We got to do Louing it.
I might have, I don't know.
Item number 10B, adopt resolution 2022. Next number, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newman, California, approving the annual report for the Lighting and Landscape Maintenance District for fiscal year 2022 and 2023.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. The item before you is to consider and approve the annual report completed by NBS. It's our contract consultant that goes through the costs and what it'll take as far as the budget. He works with Lou on what it will take to maintain and take care of the components of our lighting and landscape districts. We have 15 zones. The first resolution, there's a series of 4. The first one you adopted at the last meeting. This one is basically approving and considering the annual report they prepared. I believe you all had a copy of it. It indicates that they develop what the arrays would be, which I think we cover in the next, that's covered in the next one, I believe. So this is just considering the annual report, and I can answer any questions.
Any questions on it? No? I'll go and open up the public. Are there any comments or questions from the public? All right. Not seeing none. I'll bring it back to the council for action.
Okay, I'll move to adopt resolution number 2022, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newman, California, approving the annual report for the Lighting and Landscape Maintenance District for fiscal year 22-23.
I'll second that.
We have a first and second. Go and vote. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Item 10C, adopt resolution 2022, next number, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newman, California, declaring its intention to levy and collect assessments for the lighting and landscape maintenance district for fiscal year 2022 and 2023. Welcome back again.
Thank you. I'll take this item as well. So now that you've approved the annual report, the next step in this process is to declare your intent to levy and collect the assessments for the lighting and landscape maintenance districts for the fiscal year 22-23. The annual report did indicate that the maximum assessment is being increased by 5.193. That's based on the consumer price index for all urban consumers. This item also sets the date for the public hearing, so the public has a chance to come in and ask questions and speak on the item. And that date has been set for Tuesday, June 28th at 7 p.m. at our regularly scheduled council meeting. And I'll take any questions on this item.
Any questions from the council?
Are we going to notify the public in terms of this, where they can come in and I guess, pass their
Yes.
opinions on?
It's a public hearing, so we are required 10 days prior to the meeting. We post it into the newspaper. It'll be on the website. And I believe we can also put it on our social media sites. And then whoever gets the agenda also will see it as an item on there. But it is a public hearing, so we notify the public by way of the newspaper generally.
Okay.
I'll go and open up to the public for any comments or questions. None? All right, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
I'll move to adopt resolution number 2022, a resolution of the City Council of Newman, California, declaring its intention to levy and collect assessments for the lighting and landscape maintenance district for fiscal year 2022 to 2023.
I'll second that.
We have a first and second, go and vote. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 10C, adopt resolution 2022, next number, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newman making findings in accordance with Government Code Section 7522.56 and 2122.1, and authorizing the city manager to enter into an employment agreement for interim public works superintendent position with Lance Perry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take this one. Mr. Lance Perry's been with our city for over 30 years, basically right out of high school. He came in, became a member of the Public Works Department, was ultimately placed out at our wastewater treatment collection, or wastewater treatment plant, and he's been running it for a couple decades. He's even gotten a state award for Operator of the Year. He's done an excellent job out there, and I know for myself and for Catherine and prior public works directors, he does a great job out there. We don't really have to worry about it. A lot of things can go wrong if you think about it. There's dealing with all the stuff that you have to deal with out there, and the farming operation and some of the other things that go on out there. A lot of things can go wrong. Unfortunately for us, Lance has indicated that he is going to retire. He's reached that age. He's going to retire as of June 30th. One of the challenges that we have, and we have someone internally that we're going to kind of promote to kind of run the treatment plant on an interim basis. We're going to kind of date for a little while to see if he likes it, see if he likes us. But we want to bring this back to you tonight, and so what we have is we're asking you to review the resolution in front of you that would allow Lance to waive a 180-day waiting period. So anyone who retires post January 1st of 2013 has to wait 180 days before they can go back working for a public agency. There are waivers for that, and you have to do that, and so the attached resolution is a waiver we got off the CalPERS website, or making the appropriate findings. And the reason we're asking for a waiver for Lance is we have in excess of $10 million worth of projects going on out there right now. One would be, the most immediate is we have an irrigation project going on for which we got a grant the project's been in limbo for 2 years because the state won't give us the money they promised us. Plans are completely done. We're ready to go to bid. We just need them to confirm, give us the contract and get the money on that one. And we need someone with Lance's institutional knowledge to help bring that project to fruition, to manage it as well. Some of the other projects are, we're going to do what's called a baffling project. So you take your ponds and you run them through a baffled area there to create additional capacity. And there's a trunk outfall line project out there. So he would really be working on these special projects on a part-time basis, anywhere from 15 to 20 hours a week for up to a year. He can, under the employment agreement and under CalPERS regulations, he can only work 960 hours in a fiscal year. So that would be from July 1st to June 30th. He's limited on the amount of pay he can get. It's 4506 is his because he has to fall within the salary range of a public works superintendent. You can't pay them any less or any more than they would earn at that particular position anyways. The other finding you're making is we're not giving him any additional benefits. He doesn't get a take-home truck. He doesn't get a cell phone. He doesn't, or some of those other perks, no health care benefits that go along with that. So with that, we're asking for you to adopt the attached resolution that makes the findings in accordance with CalPERS code sections 7522.56 and 21221 so that we can enter into that employment agreement. The employment agreement is also attached for your review. So as part of that motion, we would also like you to authorize the city manager enter into an employment agreement for an interim public works superintendent position with Lance Perry. So I can answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Why don't he stay on instead of retiring? If we're going to pay him X amount of dollars, just to be a consultant, why don't he just stay on until the projects are complete?
Lance is of the retirement age. Obviously he has his own personal decisions. I think there's things that are in his personal life that are allowing him to go ahead and retire. Also, this is a part-time position as opposed to working full-time.
Yeah, I know that. It's part-time. I guess, like you said, for his personal reasons, is that he's going to be a consultant for the city. And that although he may not be getting the full benefits, I think that, how many years he's been with the city?
I think around 34.
Yeah. He should be one of the good old boys and say, well, you know what? When these projects come up, I want to sit in and just on the meetings, and give you some of my 34, 40 years of experience instead of having him on as a consultant.
I don't think it works that way.
Yeah.
CalPERS.
Yeah.
Don't.
Probably not.
No.
But anything is
Public
possible.
Works. That's a tough job.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's tough.
I used to build them.
I can say I would like to keep his knowledge away because if
Oh, yeah.
he's retiring, he can walk away 100% and never help us with these projects. So it's better to keep him on some aspect to help with these finish up these projects. So with that, I'll bring it to council for action.
I move to adopt resolution number 2022, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newman, making findings in accordance with government code sections 7522.56 and 21221, and authorize the city manager to enter into an employment agreement for interim public works superintendent position with Lance Perry.
Yeah. First, do we have a second?
I second.
First, second, go and vote. Motion carries 3-1. All right. I should open that.
Sorry.
Item number 11, items from District 5, Stanislaus County Supervisor. Good evening, Supervisor Condit.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy to be here with you tonight. I do have a little bit to report. I did have a ride-along with Sergeant Williams and Newman PD last week. It was an excellent experience. Chief, you have a great department. Council, you should be absolutely proud of your officers here as overall great experience, and just keep up the good work. We did come across some potholes over on Canal School and Inyo. So I got out the car and took some photos, put it in the public works, so we're going to try to get those paved and patched up. So, and that for the public, if you know of any potholes, take some photos, give me the address. My number, if you want to write it down, or I can give you my card, is 209-622-7485. I get photos all throughout the district from people just sending me photos of potholes and addresses, so we'll get those filled up as quick as possible. I did get to attend the farmer's market recently on Friday. Great evening. Allie and her staff, the city staff, does an excellent job. It's great to see the vendors out there. I got to enjoy a snow cone and good conversation, so it was a good time. And then I did want to update the ongoing issues with Bradbury Road. I am meeting with Supervisor Lloyd Pereira, who is a supervisor down in Merced County and represents a portion of Bradbury. We are going to discuss how we could get his side up to standard and also Stanislaus County side up to standard. And I have had several conversations with our Public Works Director as well about that. So hopefully we can make some progress and finally get that road smoothed out for the commuters who do commute to Turlock. And then today, we did have a Stanislaus County Board meeting this morning. I would like to enthusiastically report that the board has taken action to allocate funding for hospital research on what health issues the West Side specifically has, so that we can try to attract a provider with a health specialty to the West Side. So we did allocate that funding. It's a step in the right direction, and hopefully it's a step towards to eventually making a hospital or an after-hours care facility, weekend care facility on the West Side a reality. So I'm very happy about that, and that, of course, is my number one priority. And just hopefully we continue to make progress and have those conversations with providers. So happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Supervisor?
Thank you so much, man, for following up and doing that. That's so important for the West Side, in terms of some type of trauma center or emergency center, because when people get hurt on the West Side, they have to helicopter them out, or either, siren, to the nearest hospital. So that's very important for the West Side. I don't know if I'll be around to see it happen, but if it does happen, that's true impact for the West Side. And thank you so much, Supervisor.
Well, my goal is that you will be around, so I hope that we could get that done as soon as possible. Just with this region growing as it is, Patterson is our fastest growing city in the county. It is absolutely vital that we have after-hour and weekend care for our residents. It's a quality of life issue, so we need it, and I'm going to keep just hammering. I'm like fishing. I'm just casting a line trying to catch a fish on a provider, so we're just going to stay at it.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, guys.
I'd like to say thank you for your continued effort for our community, for the West Side, and then for Newman. You've taken up a lot of issues and have fought for our cities and our community pretty well. So we appreciate your continued work. Those roads out there, we talked about that in one of our meetings a long time ago, so I really appreciate that, because we do have a lot of commuters that commute to Modesto and Turlock, and those roads just are horrible.
Well, we'll stay after it.
So I appreciate continued effort for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Item number 12, items from the city manager and staff. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to echo your comments about Supervisor Condit. I think he's doing a great job representing us. Not only on that, but, another important issue that, it's been near and dear to his heart, and without him, we wouldn't be even close to where we're at, is that property tax agreement. We are fully expecting in June to come to you with a new property tax agreement between the cities and Stanislaus County. That would definitely have a huge fiscal impact on us moving forward. Now, the fruits of it all will not come immediately, but over time, the city of Newman would stand to be a benefit. And, as we continue to grow and be able to, or need to provide, public safety personnel as we continue to grow, add additional police officers, and, Keith's building a huge kingdom over there. I mean, that guy is off the hook. So, but we need the money to do that. And I think this is going to provide us an ability to do that. Not only public safety, but recreational opportunities as well for families and other things, and farmers markets and all these things. So I want to thank Supervisor Conduit for really pushing that forward. So with that, I know you have the abatement on Hills Ferry over there. There was a fire recently, and, those cargo containers have potentially flammable materials in there. So maybe after the meeting, you can talk to our fire chief about that and some of the issues that they had to face as part of that. It could have been, it wasn't a disaster, thank God, but potential for there, so. And then with just the property tax one is a great one, Mayor, and so we just wanted to let you know that that's coming forward next month. Stan Cog is having a public workshop coming up on June 16th. It's a virtual one. We'll put a copy of the link for you to go to on that. That'll be this Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy on there as well. And then we're just continuing to move forward. Probably got $8 to $10 million worth of projects going on this year, over the next 12 months. And if you look probably over the next 24 months, I bet you're in the $15 to $20 million worth of projects. So a lot of that's going to fall on Catherine's hands. She's doing a great job with all of that. The other thing is pavement management program. So Stan Cog paid a firm to come in and grade everybody's roadways. They're finishing up Newman, so probably in July, we're going to make sure we have a full council here. We'll probably start bringing some items to you for you to make some decisions on which roads is going to be our next big street project. I'm going to tell you, probably, we haven't talked through it fully as staff, but, last time we did 1.6 million in projects, a big road project that impacted us. We're looking at equal to that, probably a little bit greater because our tax revenues are up. So, we could be pushing a $2 to $2.2 million road project here soon. But we definitely need your input, and we need to get the pavement management program out there so we know what roads are graded. We kind of have a cost estimate. Then we can get that in front of you, in front of the community, and they can tell us, and then they can tell you, and you can tell us which projects we need to move forward on. And so it's an exciting time. Measure L has definitely had a good impact on our community so far. And then I think that's all that I have right now. I just want to tell everyone to have a happy and safe Memorial Day.
Any questions for Michael?
Just that, Mike, you're doing a great job. Your staff, you keep them right on time, man. And, I know you got a lot of gray hairs that you've probably gotten, but, it's worth it because your city is growing. And it's one thing about it is this, the chief is keeping us safe. I appreciate that, chief. And the growth means a lot because soon, we will probably be the #1 city on the west side. And it's kind of looking that way, although Patterson might be a little bit bigger, but we're a little bit smarter. I appreciate that.
We build quality, not quantity.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Mike.
Ally? I thought I saw her. There she is. Good evening, Ally.
Council members, sorry. Excuse me, I got a cough attack. Farmers Market will be, this will be our 4th week of in attendance. We have had up to 52 booths, all varying from produce, craft, and food vendors. We collaborated with Dibs for a Bike Month year to encourage people to be healthier and pollute less. They will be out for our final Farmers Market, giving out more merch and gifts and campaign items for our community here in Stanislaus County. The Chamber of Commerce has also collaborated by donating a small bicycle to this event here for the city of Newman. For recreation, soccer signups have officially started. As of Monday, we are off to a great start, and we are ready for movie nights. I'd like to thank everybody who has sponsored and those who continue to sponsor. We have 1 movie night in June, 2 in July, and 1 in the month of August. For code enforcement, reminder to please maintain rank growth in front and backyards as the weather is getting hotter and the weeds are growing taller. So that's one of the things that has happened here locally. Other than that, I could turn it over for any questions.
Any questions for Ally?
Nope.
Ally, great job.
Thank you.
Great continued
Yep.
job. We appreciate all your
I
hard work.
remember when there was just like 2 or 3 booths out there, and you said there's over
We-
50,
we-
60, gosh.
We started with, for our farmers markets, we started with our first event with 19 booths and ultimately have grown to 52 booths.
That's great.
Outstanding job.
Yeah.
Slowly climbing.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Chief Richardson?
Evening, Mayor, council members. I'm hoping we budgeted for blinds for that window because I can't really see you guys unless I move correctly. Lou, hopefully.
Mike, get some.
I'd like to thank Supervisor Condit for riding out with our department. It meant a lot to our department. It shows that you actually do care about our city and my staff. I assure you that the potholes were not planned. We didn't drive you there on purpose. We did on the 14th of May, we had the Etch and Catch program with the high school. They did 14 cars. Also that day, we did Coffee with a Cop. That turned out well. Last Thursday, we did our animal clinic. They were super busy. They did just over $7,500. About just under $5,000 in vouchers, $560 in license, and just over $2,000 in shots and vaccines and microchips. So we do at the department have clubs for your cars for locking mechanism. If you want to come in and get one for your car, just bring in proof of registration and ID. And also gun locks if you need one for your gun for the child safety. They were sponsored through Project Child Safe. So we also have those available at the PD. With that, I can answer any questions.
Outstanding. Any questions? Thank you, Chief. Lou?
I didn't have anything further to present tonight. Just to give you a heads up on our department is, now that the budget's out of the way, we start to work on our audit next month. So
Seems like you're always in an audit.
so one thing or the other.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lou. Catherine?
I don't have anything really to report, but I will take any questions.
Any questions for Catherine?
Up to good work, so.
Yeah, keep doing the good work. Chief Bowen? Can Supervisor come stay with you? You got an extra pair of slippers for him?
Yeah, come on by. We got an extra recliner, everything. Yeah. So mean to me. No, good evening, Mayor, Council. Just a few things. We had a working commercial structure fire just outside of town, about the 27,000 block of Highway 33. Our staff was met with many challenges, but they did a great job, amazing job. They were able to keep that fire in check into just one of the units. So the cause, and we've seen this multiple times now, was oil-soaked rags. So just put that out there. If you got oil-soaked rags, you're doing staining, any of those kind of things, make sure you're putting them in a steel container with a lid and then dumping them as soon as possible. No reason to leave them set out to dry because they're just going to catch fire. So that was our third one this year. So just be wary. If you got any questions, give us a call. We'll talk you guys through how to protect yourself. We do have a live fire training coming in the 12th. We'll be doing just outside of Stir, so I'll remind you again at the next meeting, but you'll see us do some more of that live fire training, so you'll probably get smoked out. And then we've been working on our business inspections. We're still working down Main Street. So you'll see us coming through if you're a business owner. And then we plan on being at the farmer's market on June 3rd if Valley doesn't kick us out. Like I said, they're pretty mean to us, so. I can answer any question you guys might have.
Any questions?
Yeah, when people get mean at you, that means that you're doing a great job.
Wow, I must be doing a really good job.
We tease, but when you guys got to work, you guys got to work hard. So thank you to you and all the volunteers that put a lot of work in for the city.
Thank you.
Councilman Ball?
Just thank you, Lou, and to all your staff for the work on the budget. I know it's a 365-day-a-year job. And just continued thanks to all of our staff for all of their great work.
Councilman McNall?
Well, let's say this. We haven't even got to June, and we are doing great in the city of Newman. And for our guests out here, let me say this. You can sleep comfortable because we're in good shape here in the city of Newman. And that's because we have great staff. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I have nothing for tonight to say.
Well, sorry for my couple stumbles tonight. I'm realizing I need glasses all of a sudden. I'm having a hard time seeing the last couple of weeks.
175.
Shoot a gun.
175.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for their input tonight and wish everybody a happy Memorial Day. And remember, say a little thanks to all the veterans that gave their lives for us in our country. So with that, ask for adjournment.
I move.
First,
To adjourn.
second,
Second.
go and vote.